15 on our annual journey through the Gospel of Luke, so that we can do one chapter a day all the way leading up to Christmas to be reminded of what the reason for the season is. And not just to what child is this, but what this child will become, and what this child will do, and what this child will say. Luke 15, as my thing says here, is probably the most familiar chapter of the Gospel of Luke. It is three stories, really, three parables, and they're all that we really know. Like, I can just look at it, sheep, coin, and the brother, prodigal son. And so we haven't done it yet this year, but I actually want to jump away from our normal translation. I want to get a little outside of what might be normal language to us, just to see what comes different. So I'm going to read from the Message. It's probably the most famous, the most well-loved by many, contemporary translation. And I really say translation because it's not so much a translation. I mean, I guess it's a translation, but it's a translation that requires you to have an idea of what the meaning of it is. Not just what the words say, but what the meaning is, so that you can put it in contemporary terminology. So some of this stuff, I always say, what makes you uncomfortable? This one entirely, I want to say, if you feel like, I didn't like that, that's not how I know it, think about that. Spend some time on thinking, what is it about the words, as the late Eugene Peterson, how he puts it. Or maybe there's something we like differently. I don't know. Maybe we just hear the parables different. So, let's turn to Luke 15. And again, we are reading from the Message, not the NRSV, not NIV, none of the normal translations you're going to hear on a Sunday morning, or most people will read. Some people do read it on a daily basis. But let's go ahead and look at what's going on here. And it reads, "By this time, a lot of men and women of questionable reputation were hanging around Jesus, listening intently. The Pharisees and religion scholars were not pleased, not at all pleased. They growled, 'He takes in sinners and eats meals with them,' treating them like old friends. Their grumbling triggered this story. Suppose one of you has 100 sheep and lost one. Wouldn't you leave the 99 in the wilderness and go after the lost one until you found it? When found, you can be sure you would put it across your shoulders, rejoicing, and when you got home, call in your friends and neighbors, saying, 'Celebrate with me. I found my lost sheep.' Count on it. There's more joy in heaven over one sinner's rescued life than over 99 good people in no need of rescue." Or imagine a woman who has 10 coins and loses one. Won't she light a lamp and scour the house, looking in every nook and cranny until she finds it? And when she finds it, you can be sure she'll call her friends and neighbors, 'Come, celebrate with me. I found my lost coin.' Count on it. That's the kind of party God's angels throw every time one lost soul turns to God." Then Jesus said, "There was once a man who had 2 sons. The younger said to his father, 'Father, I want right now what's coming to me.' So the father divided the property between them. It wasn't long before the younger son packed his bags and left for a distant country. There, undisciplined and dissipated, he wasted everything he had. After he had gone through all the money, there was a bad famine all through that country, and he began to feel it. He signed on with a citizen there who assigned him to his fields to slop the pigs. He was so hungry he would have eaten the corn cobs and the pig slop, but no one would give him any. That brought him to his senses. He said, 'All these farm hands working for my father sit down to 3 meals a day, and here I am starving to death. I'm going back to my father. I'll say to him, Father, I've sinned against God, I've sinned against you. I don't deserve to be called your son. Take me on as a hired hand.' He got right up and went home to his father. When he was still a long way off, his father saw him. His heart pounding, he ran out, embraced him, and kissed him. The son started his speech. 'Father, I've sinned against God, I've sinned against you. I don't deserve to be called your son ever again.' But the father wasn't listening. He was calling to his servants, 'Quick, Bring a clean set of clothes and dress him. Put the family ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. Then get a prize-winning heifer and roast it. We're going to feast. We're going to have a wonderful time. My son is here, given up for dead and now alive, given up for lost and now found. And they began to have a wonderful time. All this time his older son was out in the field. When the day's work was done, he came in. As he approached the house, he heard the music and the dancing. Calling over one of the houseboys, he asked him what was going on. He told him, your brother came home. Your father has ordered a feast, barbecued beef, because he has him home safe and sound. The older brother stomped off in an angry sulk and refused to join in. His father came out and tried to talk to him, but he wouldn't listen. The son said, look how many years I've stayed here serving you, never giving you one moment of grief. But have you ever thrown a party for me and my friends? Then this son of yours, who has thrown away your money on whores shows up, and you go all out with a feast. His father said, son, you don't understand. You're with me all the time, and everything that is mine is yours. But this is a wonderful time, and we had to celebrate. This brother of yours was dead, and he's alive. He was lost, and he's found. This is the word of God for us and for many, the people of God. Thanks be to God. What did you think about that? It's not very different. A lot of the same things. I think it really hits well, sort of the emotional aspect of what's going on in the prodigal son. The father's heart beating as he runs out to greet his son that was long gone. Of the brother, the way that he's sulking and he's stomping around. He's kind of Eugene Peterson as the brother, like basically throwing a fit. And so it's an interesting thing to think about. I mean, it definitely hits at the party component of it, but I don't know if it's the different words or maybe I don't know what it is. But I laugh every time that when Jesus tells the story of the lost sheep and the lost coin. He always says, wouldn't you throw a party? I'm just imagining the people being like, no. Why would we throw a party because 1% of our flock has returned? In their day, here's the thing: a lost sheep is a dead sheep. Like as soon as it's not counted, you might as well just write it off as a loss. And the woman's got 10 coins, and so yeah, 10%, basically her tithe, is missing. But finding it, she's like, we need to have a party then. And you're like, well, that party might cost as much as more than that one coin. But then he gets to the prodigal son, as we call it. Or I remember, actually, I don't remember who it was who first, I think it was Amy Jill Levine, the Jewish author, the way she reads the Gospels. She talks about this, this is the parable of the lost sheep, the parable of the lost coin, and the parable of the lost son. She always ends it with, now you decide which son was lost, actually. But I can imagine people sitting there and Jesus saying, wouldn't you throw a party when you found, your one of your 99 sheep? And people be like, no. And saying, wouldn't you throw a party when you found 10% of your coins? People be like, I mean, I'd feel a little happier finding that one than the sheep, but not really. And then he says, but when you throw a coin for a lost person, for a lost son, as though they are not human, and for human, Christian, human means created in the image of God, right? A creature of God, right? Those are synonyms. But it's like Jesus is rehumanizing the sinner. Which is all of us really, is that we can get in this way where we see somebody off doing it. I mean, and Eugene Peterson puts it like some of the more modern ways he puts it. I love, first of all, just a slight aside, he doesn't do like the pods, I think is the way the NRSV has it. Let me see, what is it here? So he hired himself. He calls it the pods the pigs were eating. Eugene Peterson says corn cobs. There were no corn cobs, of course, in Jesus' day, but he uses it, and right, he even goes with the pig. He's like, it's barbecue beef. Um, but and then he also says, he spent his money on whore. That's a pretty hard language. We might hear prostitutes. We're like, that sounds a little more reasonable. But the son is like, nah, I'm not talking nice here. Um, but it rehumanizes it. It's like, this was a lost son. That's something I think that's really interesting. Every single awful person that we see, or just people that we think are awful, regardless if they're objectively awful, we just think they're awful. They are somebody's son. They are somebody's daughter. Um, and so it's an interesting thing to think about, the rehumanizing of the ones who have been dehumanized. I've been thinking about that a lot lately, so I'm going to think about that a little bit while I go to a place that makes most people feel rather less than human. I am off to the MVA. So, reminder tonight, we are going caroling at Joy Chapel Estates. So, come out to the church. We'll have cookies and hot chocolate and cider. Meet on the front lawn here and go caroling. And tomorrow, at noon, and I'll probably do the video after our daily video after that, so I'll get to remind you again. Noon, come out to Joy Chapel, our not Joy Chapel Estates, Joy Chapel, our historic, actually the birthplace of our church, which is our cemetery, and we'll be doing Wreaths Across America. And once we have finished there, we'll head over to the grounds of what was Galilee United Methodist Church, up off Loveville Road, and we'll putting some wreaths there. And it'll be wreaths at both cemeteries going back to Civil War time. It'd be Mr. Cully up at Galilee and Hillary Jones down at Joy Chapel. So hope to see you at any of those events, both of those events. It's going to be a wonderful, wonderful time. But have a wonderful day, my friends.